Well, so much for a consistent upload schedule. Project Octane is Dead was supposed to be a joke, but seems it's been a month since I've done anything since. I guess the joke was on me. But here we are, back at it again, and it's about time that we narrowed down some of this conceptual stuff and actually started rolling with this project. So I decided to get together with the boys, have a little bit of a discussion, call it a design review, and try and flush everything out. Hope you enjoy. Connor and Joe have been a part of this for a little bit of time now, so they could probably just give the presentation from heart, I would think.
Yeah, so I'll start off here. So close your eyes and envision a dumpster fire with four wheels. Open your eyes again and welcome to PDR. Matt will be your guide today.
So yeah, I guess the goal of this is not what Connor said before about me missing formula and needing to do something. This was probably a year too late, being bored with quarantine to try and make something. But here we are, and I put some concept art together for y'all.
Is that your big kitty golf girlfriend?
Yes, this is the ideal. That's the goal right there.
Still at work, right?
Yeah, Gwen's still at work. So I guess for the boring and here's fun stuff. Just some actually decent looking fan art stuff that people had made. Yeah, the goal is just to make it roll. Buy as many purchase parts as possible that can be used and cut and piece it all together, and then have an actual body that looks the part at least. I did get a model from the actual game and drew a Percy, if you will. I named this one Chad instead. I thought it was a better name than Percy. The one that's in there is the quote-unquote 6.5 scale, which just means nothing. That torso height is like 19.2, and so then it was just scaling that relative to the size of the car rather than scaling the car and the model to a sketch. But I did that for a whole bunch of different options you can see on the Excel sheet, and that just gave different wheelbase, track widths, all that good stuff. Yeah, it's still like a full-size car even though it's a single-seater because because the model, like, you can't move the head like that much far back in the window there. Like, I pretty much kept the head in that same spot when I scaled it. I think I've got here, I'll give you the 7.5 picture is in here. And I mean, there's like nothing else you can do with the back half of the vehicle. It's like set aside for this massive powertrain that it isn't going to have. And
Are you just going to put an engine cover on it to make it look like a V8?
Yeah. Yeah, everything outside the I'll show you the main body section. It's on another slide. There's a picture of it, but anything other than that is just going to be in the chassis underneath. It's just going to be to look the part, just to cover, like you said. So when you weren't privy to these conversations before, but initially one of the options was to take try and just use like a transaxle, except that it poked out it was too wide. The actual center part of the body is like 32 inches tops. One of the options was to take that, turn it 90 degrees, and then put it one of those CV axles to a new rear differential in order to get it to fit within the profile of the vehicle. I believe on most of those transaxles it's an open diff on the front of them, so you'd have to lock your cutoff half shaft and your rearward facing half shaft, which go to a differential, and you have a double final drive reduction between the two of them. And so it was like you need a amplifier in between to undo the one, and then it was just an absolute mess.
Hear me out. Outboard motor.
I'm not too familiar with their breakdown where shafts and are.
It's basically depend on the size. It's basically a vertical engine.
It's what they used to do back in the day for midget race cars. They used to run some outboard motors in them. because of packaging.
You just blew his entire mind.
So would you just mount that vertically and then that drive shaft that comes down, put that to a diff?
Cool diff, yeah.
I have to look at the midgets how they did it, but I
Yeah.
think that's what they did. You can get them pretty cheap too, I'd imagine. I don't know.
I'm just gonna say it again though. What about like an LT7?
It doesn't fucking fit.
V8 super.
Doesn't fit. I was looking at the like a Porsche Boxster / modifying a Subaru sort of setup as well to mount the engine, just normally longitudinally. But with the Subaru part, you kind of have to. It sticks out the back end a lot, and so there's a couple modifications you can do to actually get rid of that rear output shaft and basically put a cap over it. Not really ideal. And then I was looking up like Boxsters on Copart in the local area, and unfortunately they're just way too overpriced for what they are. And then there's the 09 CBR 600, which probably hasn't run since a decade ago.
Have you considered putting a turbine in?
I can set you up with one of them.
It is a Rocket League car. You should actually put a rocket in it.
Yeah, exactly.
I said that. I said put a turbine in that shit. But no.
Have you seen those little like rocket powered go-karts? They're pretty neat. They're like run on propane.
I have not. Yeah, I don't think the rocket go-kart is going to be the way to go.
Well, you need a rocket boost.
Yeah.
Yeah, but can I put a colorful trail on it, and modify it right?
Just put different chemicals in the flame.
Yeah, just throw some magnesium in the exhaust or whatever.
If you want white or if you want green, copper, right?
Yeah.
You start changing the fuel mixture.
Like one of those high school science experiments where you put the different mixtures together and see what
Yeah.
colors produce what.
Exactly. They don't have smog in South Carolina, right? Admissions.
Doesn't matter up there.
No, we don't have admissions.
Yes, you're golden.
Yeah, because this thing's going to be road legal. That's right. Yeah, show me the title to this thing. Don't worry about emissions.
Well, I actually
With,
did look it up, and I think there was something about kit cars where like you can actually get like an independent like investigator to see whether it's roadworthy or not. And
Yeah, and he's going to show up and be like, "What in the God's green earth is this?"
I'll just keep asking different ones until I get one that's played Rocket League.
Become one yourself.
Ah.
Here you go.
Anyways, I was looking at if you use the bike or the Frankenstein impossible idea. I was looking at like a pre-2015 Mustang had the beam axles in the rear still, and then your Wranglers still have them and everything, but that's not going to work for pretty much any of them. So if the idea at that point was to use the CBR, it would still be an independent suspension, and for that I was looking at some cars, but they don't really, control arms aren't long enough to actually span the distance to the center of the vehicle. So either was going to have to use something off of a truck. I actually measured up the suspension on my F-150 and overlaid it in a model. I'll show that in a sec. Or to use something off of like a side-by-side. But the problem with those is that they're actually like too long, because here your feet are going to be between your front suspension and all that. So on most of those side-by-sides and off-roaders, where it actually connects on the frame there is like a foot wide, it seems, in most of the pictures. Let me see if I got something to. There you go. It's a little bit better.
Is it gonna have power steering with your 27-inch wheels?
Not really planning on it.
Wolf.
Just gotta start rolling forward before you start steering. That's all it is.
Yeah, I think you're probably just gonna have to weld in some bunks and make some shit.
I do think the F-150 suspension will fit.
Oh, okay.
So I'm hoping to not have to go the route of making custom A-arms and all that. I'm hoping that I can, if it visually looks close enough and that's the route to go, then there's actually a salvage yard just down the street here that I noticed has the same year model truck as mine. And so I took the measurements off mine for a reason, because I could go down there and just get scrap parts and then sort of use them to actually model everything up, and then actually as a jig for welding brackets on a frame.
Mm-hmm.
What is your chassis, your frame? What is that?
Oh, I'm glad you asked.
Oh,
Oh God.
I drew that up like yesterday, and it's got some good triangulation, as you can see.
Suggestion: if you're just gonna use F-150 suspension, why don't you just get an F-150 frame? And then, I mean, if you want it shorter, just lop it in the center and bolt that shit back together.
Yeah, you
that's
could.
what I said.
You'd have to cut it both lengthwise as well as widthwise. And then, even at that, you can't use the rear axle or anything like that, so you need two fronts.
Just use the front, I guess. I don't know. It seems like if you're gonna
Yeah, and then you just
I
make a
don't know.
smaller,
rear subframe, whatever.
right? Which is kind of what this was just to have a roll cage and then a very small subframe.
So let me get this right. You want to make a steel roll cage, but you don't want to weld up some bungs into some tubes to make control arms.
You're not wrong.
Okay. Because rod ends and bending's not a problem here, I don't think. So.
I was looking at like some other like go-karts or side-by-sides or something that you could pluck the frame from.
Yeah.
And try and maybe do a combination of a little bit of custom stuff with the subframe sections and tabs and all that, and then just use the cage part, if you will, off of one of those. But
Right.
I'd have to get hands-on one to actually see how well it would fit.
What about like a what are those things called? Like a John Deere Gator.
Mm-hmm.
One of those bad boys. Those things aren't too wide. Those are like only, I don't know, 50 something wide. What type of frames do a golf cart have? What's that look like? So you can get those kind of stanced out golf carts with the suspension.
Looks like they just got a little bit of a tube shell on the bottom.
Oh, that'd be perfect. That golf cart frame.
Because you can get rid of that front firewall and you can put your, cut that one bar, put your feet above over the axle, basically, like you were showing. I mean, that's not a problem.
Yeah.
And you have all your suspension, your frame. Oh, I just found the perfect link for you. He basically takes a go-kart frame and makes it into a little Baja car.
Yeah, there are other little like buggies and stuff out there too that you would have a very good option for frame and suspension and all that too.
But I imagine you'd be using bigger than 1-inch tubing. That was the problem.
No, Tillman, you don't need that.
It's
good enough for the frame.
I was thinking like 1.5 is what they normally use for roll cages. For the official sanctioned for like SCCA and all that.
Well, it doesn't mean. I mean, like Matt's not going to roll this. You don't have to actually have it be safe. It just has to stand up.
Well, he might not roll it, but when it collapses in two like a taco.
What's the total estimated weight?
Well, Well, Formula car was what 65 pounds. Add a couple more for tabs. We were probably about 70 pounds.
Couple more for tabs.
The amount of shit we loaded on there afterwards that wasn't accounted for. I mean, that was like 70 pounds. So I would say for a cage and basic like sub frame on this, it's bigger, but it's mostly spanning space. It's not as tight and needed, meet all the rules a certain way that leads to extra stuff. Like I think you would have a frame less than 150 pounds. So I guess roughly you're looking at 300 pounds in wheels, tires, suspension, all of that, plus your frame, 150 pounds. I mean, that's 450. I would think you'd be somewhere in the neighborhood of 750 pounds.
Anyhow, your composite body. I got a lot of carbon. What do you want? What do I want for it?
I don't know if this whole thing really needs to be carbon by any means.
Oh,
Like I can get my hands on some fiberglass, but I do think it would be nice and cool to maybe do like a single ply outer layer of carbon and then just do the remaining plies and reinforcement stuff with fiberglass. That might be possible. I don't know. Yeah,
how are you gonna make all the body work?
I had a coworker that sent me a video of this one dude on YouTube that's doing like, he was like a prototype engineer, and so he had done like stuff before using basically plywood station lines and then filling it in with, covering it with like burlap and then coating all of it with like drywall paste and then sanding it down to final dimensions and all of that, and then he took molds off of that. And it was a pretty cheap way of doing it, but dear God, did he have an unfathomable amount of time in just sanding things and then taking measurements between the two sides to make sure the car was symmetrical and stuff like that.
Yeah, I'd imagine.
I was thinking about something. I was like, the body isn't that large, and so one thing I was thinking about was 3D printing sections and doweling them all together to get the the profile, and then you can sand and fill and do everything from there. Or
not that large. It's like, compared to 3D printing scale, though, it's like massive, right?
Yeah, you're gonna have to break into a whole bunch of basically foot by foot sections that you can put features in, basically just dowel pin holes and dowel it all together to make that singular structure. Or if you split it up ahead of time, you can basically do the same thing, but basically break up your where your panels are going to be in all of your different segments and everything. You could break that up ahead of time and then save some material, make it a little bit easier that way potentially. I don't know.
The only reason I'm asking is I'm trying to figure out something to do with my carbon, and I always come into this problem too.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't quite figured out the body. So I mean, that was just the only thing that really came to my mind initially, was the printing and piecing together a whole bunch of sections to get the profile.
If you trust your sculpting abilities, you can make a mold out of foam. Kind of a denser foam. Lay fiberglass up on that.
Or clay. Do a clay model.
That'd be a lot of clay.
I was thinking about
Well, this doesn't seem like a project of compromise.
I was looking at like tooling board and stuff again.
Oh God. Don't do the tooling board.
Because then if you can do it all on a router,
way more than your car.
You're right. You're right. Is this thing gonna have doors?
Oh, yeah.
Very good question.
No, it's got to be like NASCAR. You got to go through the window.
What if he pops the whole cab up like a fighter
Yeah,
jet?
like a
Pop it
dragster.
forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There
Yeah.
you go.
That'd be neat.
That way, when it catches fire, you're definitely gonna burn to death. You gonna buy a seat, or you gonna make a seat too?
I would try not to make a seat.
Are you going to have a windshield, or are we just open cockpit here?
I'd get like a Lexan panel that's already like smoked or whatever. Like I think you can actually have those tinted as well. It's a different process than regular window tinting, but I don't imagine it could be that much different.
Will you have AC?
You know what, Connor? Just for you, I'll have AC. You want heated
Will you
seats
have
too?
heat? I wouldn't say no.
Connor was trying to get your heated seats with no firewall.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
I
where's
wouldn't.
your cooling? How's cooling gonna work?
Well, I was like, if you're gonna have that big old, supercharger inlet on the top for looks, then maybe you do leave it open and actually, have a bit of a
Duct it down.
duct it down for your intake and cooling. I don't know.
You could probably just put it on the back too, and just have a fan.
So yeah, I think that would be fine.
Ambitious.
You could run airflow into the cabin through that front grill.
I was gonna leave it
Like
completely
easy.
open. Yeah.
Keep your feet nice and cool.
I see it has like actuators on the wing, so it is gonna have active aero, correct?
Correct. I'm gonna put a little like a brake bias, a little adjuster.
Uh huh.
Just wire that to spin that guy and get your angle of attack.
Luckily, with your ludicrous unsprung weight, I don't think you have to worry about your center of pressure.
I don't think much has to be really worried about here, except not collapsing in on itself.
Yeah, it's still pretty. I think it'll be all right. The structural
Matt,
engineer
it's
in
like
me
I
is
said
saying
before,
it'll be all right.
Nobody starts a project saying like, "Yeah, this is going to go fucking terrible." Yep.
Alrighty. Well, good luck, Matt.
That's where we're gonna leave it.
Let me know when you buy a frame or whatever, I guess.
Oh, you'll know.
What's the timeline for this?
Matt's just going to show up at your doorstep with a half of a car in like a month.
Hey, you
wouldn't
can
be
put this
mad.
together. Well, my
Yeah, I
one.
got the TIG welder works beautifully. We can get that welded up, no problem.
The one timeline I have on my schedule is I believe it's July 7th. That is when my SolidWorks license expires.
You got 4 months?
4 months to model me, which I did look, and surprisingly, it was only like $100 for a SolidWorks student license.
But you're not a student.
You're not.
Are you going to bring it to MIS for Formula 2021?
I would take it to like local like track days and stuff.
I don't think it's gonna pass tech inspection.
It has a roll cage. It has a roll cage. It's an F1. It's a shortened and narrowed F-150 with a roll cage.
Except that's not going to be using the F-150 chassis because reasons. Damn it.
All right. We'll wrap this up with maybe look at an outboard and maybe try and find a frame and a suspension that can already be used off of something else.
Sounds good. See you guys later.
See ya.